You kind of answered it. Where do I see my future self? So the thing to understand about a growth mindset is it's really not about where we see our future self. It's really in the decisions that we make on a day-to-day basis. Okay. And what does that mean? How do we make decisions? How do we learn? And so if you look here, it says there's two different mindsets. There's a growth mindset, and then there's a fixed mindset. And what you'll see is when you have a growth mindset and you have a fixed mindset, you look at the world differently. Okay, you look at things in a different light, and it's kind of the idea that and we're going to show this cool little video about I like it because it's called the power of yet, right? Like when you're faced with a challenge, you're like, oh man, that sucks. I don't know how to do that yet, right? And that's the concept behind a growth mindset. And now it's a really big, so there's a lot of research being done on how do you actually build this into children when they're young, right? Because I have a little niece and nephew, and you ask them to do something fun or ask them to do something challenging, and then when they can't do it, they're like, I just can't do it. I just can't do it, and I'm never going to be able to do it, and they get all kind of upset right away. And the key is that you go, well, yeah, you can't do it yet. But guess what? You will be able to do it if you put your mind to it. If you actually don't close yourself off, say, yeah, I can't do it yet, but how do I get to the point that I can do that? It's like for you all, when you're studying, I don't know what your majors are, but you're studying chemistry and you're sitting there going like, I do not get this, right? You can do one of two things. You can throw your hands in the air and be like, I'm never going to get it. I'm going to change my major. I'm a loser. I'm a failure, and I'm out. Or you just go, well, I don't get it yet, but I'm going to figure it out. So you'll notice when it comes to challenges, people with a fixed mindset will avoid challenges. They don't like challenges, okay? People with a growth mindset actually embrace those challenges. They like to be challenged. They want to figure things out. If they're faced with obstacles with a fixed mindset, they give up easily. Okay, that's what I was talking about just a minute ago. That's kind of hard. I don't think I want to do it. And they just don't do it. Other people say, well, you know what, it is hard, but I'm going to figure this out. So they persist in the face of setbacks, okay? Effort, basically, they fixed mindset, they see efforts as fruitless or worse. Like I don't really want to do that. I don't have the time for that. I don't have the energy. I don't have the effort for that. And then, if you have a growth mindset, you see efforts to the path to mastery. So yeah, you know what? I don't get it, but I'm going to learn how to do it. And you all are going to do this on a regular basis. As you get through college, I'll tell you, when I was a college student, there are numerous times that I was faced with a class that I did not know what I was doing. I did exercise physiology class one time, and I was like, I have no idea what this crazy lady's talking about. But I was determined to figure it out. I was determined to learn it. If you're an exercise science nursing major, you'll learn about the Krebs cycle. That thing is a pain in the butt, man, to learn. But you have to devote yourself. Like, I don't know it, but I'll learn it. And this happens in life. This isn't just about college. The way we approach things in life and how we look at our challenges in our lives is really, really important. All right. Your generation of students now is having this growth mindset. Y'all came from, a pandemic that we'd never seen, like we thought we were never going to get out of. And so it's really easy to get into that negative mode and just be like, well, it's just the way it is. So I'm not going to worry about it. Okay. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but you could see how the growth mindset, the green, gets thicker as it goes along because you're actually challenging yourself. So a lady named Carol Dweck, that's her name, Carol Dweck, kind of weird last name. She's a professor at Stanford University, and she is the #1 leading researcher in growth mindset. Okay, so what she talks about, and we'll see here in a minute, is fixed versus a growth mindset. What does that mean? The power of yet. Okay, and then the desire to learn and get better. That's the key to growth mindset. It's not done overnight. It's a constant mindset that we say, like, I'm going to get better, right? Now, something I used to tell my students when I worked with them and I talk to them, a lot of people don't realize that when you come to college, at this point in time, most people don't realize that your personality is still being defined. Okay, I know a lot of us like to go like, oh no, I'm who I'm going to be for the rest of my life. Not necessarily. Okay, your personality is still being defined, and that's why these years when you're in college are very, very, very formative years, because you're figuring out who you are. That's why when you come to college, you come here to open your mind, not to close it, because you're really still searching for what brings value to your life, what do you appreciate, things like that. Okay, so we'll pull this up, and as I mentioned, we are going to watch a video. It's not the most exciting video in the world, but it's really interesting how they taken this growth mindset and applied it to children. And Carol Dweck has done many researching opportunities, and this is some of her sharing some of that information. So I'm going to start the video and we'll check it out. It doesn't let me expand it, so I apologize.
We don't have any sound for the video.
What was that?
We don't have any sound for the video.
What? All right, give me a second here. Why isn't it not working? There's no sound. I'm gonna stop share. Give me 1 second here, folks. That's weird. I blame Ryan, but that's it.
No worries.
I'm gonna actually just pull up the video myself, and I'll share my screen. Let's see here. You hear it now when I turn it on?
No, but you're not on screen share.
Okay, let me see if it'll work. Weird. Okay, got that fixed now. Let's see if it'll let me screen share now, and it'll do what I need it to do. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
You hear it? Can you hear it, Ryan?
No.
Weird. Why? I wonder why it's not sharing. Why y'all can't hear it? What would cause that?
It might be, if you go to audio settings for share screen, you might have to change it to the actual video.
All right, let me see real quick. Yeah, that's weird. Audio settings, like in Zoom.
Yeah.
Full screen. There's audio settings. Don't mute my audio. No, that's good. Where would it be? I don't see where I could change that.
I'm not sure.
Wondering if interesting. Oh, here we go. Video shared screen, video, audio. So you guys can hear me, but you just can't hear it when it starts playing. Interesting. Well, if it doesn't work, it's gonna be lame, but I can work with it. Automatically share desktop. Okay, fit to scale. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything that would fix that. Hide video participants, yeah, so audio. Automatically join. Use my microphone when joining a meeting, blah, blah, blah. Huh, I don't know why that wouldn't work, honestly. So anyways, well, we'll just have to deal with what we've got. So I'm not gonna, if it's not gonna work, I don't know why it wouldn't work, but then again, never know why anything doesn't work. Alrighty, so, but I can go through this without it, and we'll just kind of talk through it. Let me get back to where we were. So in that video, there was actually what she talks about in that video, which I loved, is they went to Chicago, and there was a school that they went and the teachers actually did not give students grades. Okay, so they did this experiment, and what they did is, hold on a second, is they actually had the students, when they gave them their grades. Okay, man, this is being a pain in my butt here. Oh, Zoom's being weird today. Do you guys see my screen? Can you see it, Ryan?
Yeah.
Okay. Just going through these real quick, get back to where I was. So this is a little bit that she had done. So they went to the school in Chicago, and instead of giving the students grades, they literally gave them a grade back. If they didn't do well on the test, they gave them a grade back of not yet. They literally wrote on there, right? So you didn't do well on this yet. And what they really were focusing on is not, we get so fixated on think about our society in general, right? And when you go to school, everything we do is like, oh, I got to do this to be the best, or I got to do this to get a grade. And then
Hey,
we're always
John.
trying to. What's up?
We can see your screen, but not the PowerPoint.
What's going on here? All right, let me stop share again. PowerPoint, this is gonna piss me off. Let's see now. Should work. Now,
Okay, now we can see it.
all right, cool, awesome. Sorry, technical difficulties. And so what they've realized and what we're learning about the human brain is that, one, the human brain does like to learn. I mean, if you think about it, from the day you were born, every one of you, you've been problem solving your entire life. Okay, if you have like little nieces and nephews, little brothers and sisters, from the day that we are born, our body is always constantly trying to learn something new, right? I mean, you get a 3-year-old, and how many of you guys have any like 3-year-old nieces, nephews, brothers, right? And what's their favorite word when you're talking to them and you're having a conversation with them? What's that word that they like to use all the time?
No.
No's one of them. But what else? When you're talking to a little kid, what do they say? You're like explaining to them like, oh, look at that plane, or oh, look at how this flower is, and little kids. Why? Yes, absolutely. Why? Right? Why? Well, just because. Well, why? Right? My little nephew, he drives me crazy because he's always like, why? I'm like, well, I don't know. It's just the way it is, right? But that word why is a really important word. And that is the beginning of a growth mindset. It's not about saying that I know everything. It's about me saying I don't know everything, and I can learn to be better, and I can learn to grow and learn over time. Okay. So again, when you look at this here, it says a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. So if you have a growth mindset and you face a challenge, you're going to go like, well, what can I learn from this? Like, what did I learn? What am I learning here? Even if with a setback. Fixed mindset, you just automatically go to I can't. No, I can't do it. No, it's not happening. I'm not going to be able to do it. And so that's a real simple example. Growth mindset. How do I ask for help? Right? One of the challenging things I've seen in my 17 years of being in higher ed is college students asking for help. Because they're like, I don't want to ask for help. I know I look dumb if I ask. I'll look dumb if I go to tutoring. In reality, you're going to kind of look dumb taking the class again, right? Asking for help is how we actually grow. All right. I know I can tell you right now, there's not a doctor out there that did not ask for help. Okay. And so again, who can I ask for help? And then the fixed mind says, you know what, I'm not good at anything. Like I just suck. All right. They have this negative connotation to themselves. Why might I not be there yet? Why don't I understand this yet? What am I doing? What am I doing personally to fix that? You know, what new skills could I learn? So the growth mindset, as you can see, and I'm not going to read through all of these, but it's like that glass is half empty, half full, right? If you're always living in the glass is half empty world, well, then it's never going to be full. And you're never going to achieve what you want to achieve because you've already given up before you've tried. You know, it's okay. Failure is actually good. Okay. Failure is good. It sucks. Nobody likes it, but failure is good as long as you are able to learn from it. So there was a time when I was here that I did I worked with academic probation students. I still do. These are students who came to college and failed out pretty quick, struggled. And, you know, when I meet with them, but the challenge is always, how do I get them to know that they can do this, that they can be successful, right? So it's really breaking down the student. Because most students, I'll tell you right now, students don't come here because they want to fail, okay? I've never met a student when I first onboarded them and said, hey, you know, we're going to, you know, how do you think your first year is going to go? They're like, oh, dude, I'm going to fail everything. I'm not going to go to class. You know, no. That's not how life works, okay? Everybody comes in with a positive attitude, but it's those that when they face adversity, okay? Those students, what I've noticed in the years is the students that when they face adversity have that fixed mindset, they shut down. Like they literally shut down. They just, I can't do this. It's college. Nope, it's not for me. And the students that have the growth mindset, it's really interesting having conversations with them because they talk differently. They're like, yeah, you know what? I really messed up and here's what was going on, but I'm already starting to do this. And I really think that if I do this, so they're already starting to think about how do they fix what went wrong the first time, right? And that's that old saying, right? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result, right? And you'd be amazed how many people are crazy because they keep coming back to school, keep doing the same damn thing. And they're like, oh, I'm going to be better this time. I swear, I'm not going to fail my classes, but I'm not going to change anything that I did. Well, that's crazy. Like, that's not going to work, right? And so you can't change what you don't want to change. And so the core of it, though, is this. It's changing your mindset, okay? Because we have the ability to be able to convince ourselves of anything we want. Let's just be honest, okay? And we see this all the time. So the next thing I'm going to go into is, I was going to watch this video. It's super cool, but it's not going to work probably again, so never mind. But this is an idea this is very similar, growth mindset and victim versus creator. Have any of you, raise your hands again, have any of you ever heard of a victim versus a creator? Anybody heard of that before? You can use your little, what do you call it? Actually, I'm going to stop share for a second. Little thumbs up if you guys have. Anybody? Nobody's heard of victim versus creator. Interesting. Okay. What do you, well, let's, I'm going to pick on Daniel. Okay. It's Daniel sitting there chilling, man. And if anybody else, if you have your camera, please put it on. I want to see y'all's lovely faces. I know some of you started a little late, so that's all right. Daniel, just think of the words that I'm saying, right? Victim versus creator. What do you think that means?
I think a creator will like take a situation and create something out of it, possibly. Like a victim, probably like just say it is what it is type of thing and just live with it or whatever.
Yeah, that's pretty good, right? We can be victims all the time in our lives. Trust me, man. When you're faced with challenges, you're faced with decisions, you're faced with life. Let's just be honest, right? One of the hardest things about being a college student is that you have to be a college student and you also have to be an adult. You have to make choices. You have to deal with life. Like, I mean, you guys aren't completely full adults yet. Some of you may be, but for the most part, I mean, you still got to break from the real world. You're still kind of on the verge. You're not quite fully responsible for everything. I mean, you're paying your bills and you're doing the things you need to as a college student, but you're still growing, right? Again, your personality is still being defined. So the experiences that you have are changing you, even though it doesn't seem like they really are. And so, you know, we're going to talk a little bit about, you know, fixed versus growth mindset. And the reason why is because I want you to, when I show you some of these statements, I want you to even don't think about yourself. Think about people around you. Think about people that you know, okay? And go, is that guy a victim or a creator, right? My son, when I have a 19-year-old kid who's going to school here at the college, but when he was little, I had to teach him not a hard lesson, but it was a fun lesson because he was always the victim. And I had to have this own conversation with my son, right? Because he was always the victim. It was everybody else but him, right? He'd come home from school and he'd have a mini ticket. That's what they used to call him, a mini ticket, when he got busted. And I would be like, hey, what's up with this mini ticket? And he's like, well, Dad, Dad, before anything, I'm Daniel. I was sitting by Daniel and Christine, and they started talking to me. And then, right, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. But what did you do? Where is your role in this? How did you get a mini ticket? Because I'm not worried about Daniel or Christine, right? I'm worried about what you did. And so I always have to spend like 10 minutes flushing out what he actually did. Because he was a victim. He wanted to play the victim role all the time. And I eventually had to teach him that, like, son, you can only control you. And so you can't point fingers. If you make that decision, then you have to own that decision, right? You have to own your decisions. And I'm telling you right now, I'm 42 years old, and I made a lot of good decisions. I made a lot of bad decisions. And no matter what happens with your decisions, you have to own them, right? But you can also own them and just dwell on them, or you can own them and do something productive with them, okay? And that's the whole idea behind the victim versus a creator. So if we're victims, we are always haunted by our decision, right? We're haunted by everything that comes to us. So you got to ask yourself, which one are you, right? So when I think about that, we'll say, okay, well, which one am I? So we're going to talk language here. And I want you to, again, think about people, think about friends, family, anybody that you know, and think of which kind of personality they are, okay? So you got a victim, the victim language, which is, you know, we look at that and we look at victims focus on the weakness, okay? So they're like, well, I can't do that. Well, I'm not strong enough to do that. Well, I'm not smart enough. You know what? I just can't do it. It's not going to happen. And a creator focuses on how to improve. So this ties into that growth mindset. Yeah, you know, I don't know how to do that. I don't. But I could probably get better. I don't know how to do that yet, but I can probably get better. So even if it's something negative, you know, there's always an opportunity to go, okay, how do I get better at something that I do? Okay, victims make excuses. We all know who those folks are. Oh man, you know, I can't do it, man. I'm sorry, I'm out of town that day, or you know, because they don't want to face life sometimes and make excuses. Okay, they're good at making excuses because it's easier to blame other people than it is to blame yourself. And if you're a creator, you seek solutions. So it's like, well, this sucks, but I'm going to fix it and I'm going to find out how to fix it, right? So victim complains. How many of you guys have those friends of yours that just always complaining, like, hey, it's everybody else's fault. Like, God, it's my teacher, man, I can't pass this class because my professor sucks, man. He's the worst professor on the planet. I'm sure all of you probably said that at least about one class on. Like, dude, he's the worst professor, and I don't know how he even works here, man. That automatically we put ourselves in the victim role, right? I used to do that. I become a victim immediately. I can't pass this class because my damn professor. But yet there's people who are passing the class, right? So is it that the professor is bad? Maybe he is. right? Maybe the professor is not the greatest professor on the planet. Maybe their teaching style does not pair up with the way you learn. But you can complain until you're blue in the face, and it's still not going to make the class change, right? Your mindset has to change. You got to go, yeah, you know what? I'm going to have to deal with this guy. How do I learn to pass this class? Okay. And that's a big one that you'll run into when you're in college. It's so easy just to point the finger and blame everybody else, right? And so when we think about, a victim language is the complainer, the creator turns complaints into requests. So that's when you really turn the page and you're like, okay, this professor, I am not going to pass the class unless I figure out this professor. So then what do? The creator is going to go, well, I obviously don't understand how this professor teaches. So I'm going to go talk to them. I'm going to go to their office hours. I'm going to sit down with this person and try to figure them out, because I can complain again until I'm blue in the face. Not going to fix anything. Really doesn't. Okay. So compares oneself unfavorably to others. That's a unique kind of thing, right? Compares themselves to others. So, they're like, oh, well, Johnny's just really smart. Like, I'm not that smart. Okay. Again, I put the victim hat on. The creator goes, yeah, dude, that Johnny dude is sharp as hell, but I'm gonna go pick his brain. Like, I'm gonna go figure out how he knows all the stuff that he knows. Right? Like, you can't, oh man, I just can't do this. I'm the dumbest kid in the class. Or, hey, I noticed that Ryan has been getting really good grades on her test. Maybe I should go study with him. All right. That's the kind of, like, you have to find positive in the negative, right? Victims blame. They like to blame others for their problems. That's kind of my son. That's totally was him. Oh, Dad, it's everybody else. And the creator accepts responsibility. All right. Like, we have to. That's a hard thing for a lot of people to really digest. It's not easy to accept responsibility, right? It's not easy to go, yeah, I was wrong, right? Being in a relationship, that's one of those areas that gets, where you have to accept responsibility. You make a mistake, you could blame the other person. That's why people get in fights, right? Because you're faced with a challenge as a couple, and then you start blaming each other. Well, you did this. Well, you did this. Well, when do we really go, hey, you know what? Well, I accept that I did this, and I'm sorry that it caused that for you, right? That's that. Accepting your responsibility. Accept that you make mistakes. Okay, if you don't make mistakes, you're not human. That's just a reality, right? So, just something to be thinking about. Okay. Let me get this to come back on. Let's see. So victim sees problems as permanent. You're never gonna get better, man. Ever, ever, ever. So I'm saying these things so you can think of people that that are always like that. Man, my life just sucks, dude. It's like it never happens. I always get the bad end of the stick. And that they're just always constantly they're almost like trying to convince themselves that they are victim, right? And the creator goes, yeah, this sucks right now, but it'll get better. Like, it'll get better. It's not going to always be gloomy. I can get better, and I can do things that'll make this problem better. But you have to accept it, right? Victims like to repeat ineffective behaviors. So they continue to, again, that's that definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. The behavior that you're doing is not working yet. Victims will continue to do it because they don't want to, they have a hard time seeing it getting any better. They're like, it's not going to happen. I don't know why I'm putting all this effort in. It's not going to happen, right? When creators actually do something new, they're like, okay, this is not working. How do I fix that, right? So again, you can see the difference between the two. Victims, right? They try. Well, I'll try it. Okay. Creators does, or they do. Okay. They say, okay, I'm going to try it. No, I'm not going to try it. I'm going to accomplish what I asked. What task I put in front of me. I'm going to be resilient. And that's a big word in college, is being resilient, right? Trying to make, getting over the obstacles. And this is the one I think is funny, predicts defeat and gives up. That's that person like, oh, you know what? I'm never going to get it. I'm done. I am never going to get it. And actually, the funny thing is when I was in college, I went through that my freshman year. I took a biology class and I took my first test and I failed with flying colors. Like, there's nothing worse than like going to class after you take a test and the professor goes to the board and he writes down the highest score and then the lowest score. And then you get your test back and you're the low score. I was like, oh, this sucks. Like, I can't even pass my first quiz. And, you know, thinking back now from where I was then, could I have been a biology major? Yeah. Yeah, if I was willing to do the work, but I wasn't willing to do the work then, right? And so for all of you, we're faced with those decisions on a regular basis. Are we willing to put in the work? Are we willing to do what we need to do to be successful? And there's another, I don't know if any of you have heard of it, but I've done a lot of training too with Franklin Covey. Have any of you heard, thumbs up if you've heard of the seven habits of highly effective people? Any of you heard about that before? So if you haven't, I would strongly encourage you to, there's a couple short YouTube videos out there that talk about this, but being an effective individual requires commitment, right? Why are some people more successful than others? Now, there's a lot of external factors that can influence that, but some of it, a lot of it is really a mindset, right? Those people that become very successful, they just didn't wake up one day and they were successful. Well, they had to put their mind to it. They had to overcome failure. They couldn't be a victim anymore. You can't be a victim and be successful because then nothing ever works your way. So then, I mean, if every single time life threw a curveball at you, you hid underneath it and said, I can't do it. Well, of course you're not going to get anywhere. You know, crazy thing about my journey to where we're at here today is that I'll be honest with you, when I was an 18-year-old freshman in college, there's no way on the planet that you would have convinced me that I would get my degree, get a master's degree, and run my own unit at an institution of higher ed. No way. Never thought that was possible. Okay. But when I got into advising and I first started helping students, there was something kind of like lit in me. Like I knew I was on the right path. But in order to, you know, once I figured out how to be a good advisor, or what I call success coaches now in my department, there was that itch for me to do more, right? There was an itch. I'm a very good advisor. That is awesome. How do I help students on a much larger scale? How do I really impact students' lives? What can I do to change the student's experience? And that's what drove me to get my master's degree. Because I was like, well, if I want to run my own department, I need a master's. You think I wanted to get a master's? Absolutely not. Was not the first thing on my list of things to do. But I decided to go back to school to do it. And yeah, halfway through my master's, I was ready to throw in the towel. I was tired. I got tired of writing. I got tired of all the stuff that has to go on in a master's program. And then we had a retreat and I got a little bit of, it was kind of nice. I got a little bit of motivation and we did some activities that really helped me realize that I was on the right path, right? And so I got my master's and then I continued to do what I'm doing now. But the thing is that it's not easy. I could be a victim all the time as a director. There's a lot of things that I try to do and get denied. And I'm, you know, and I could go, well, that's just the way it is. But sometimes you want to. I think Ryan's probably seen me sometimes. I'm like, it's just the way it is. Like, there's nothing I can do about this. And then I have to kind of catch myself and go like, well, yeah, there, you know what? You're right. There's nothing I can do about this. But what can I do? Right? What can I fix? I can't fix everything, but what can I do? And that's a hard thing to learn. Is when you feel like your back's against the wall and there's no end in sight. And then you ask yourself, but what can I do? Right? And when you become a leader, that's kind of the hardest thing is you basically are trying to figure out. A lot of people come in, my supervisor now, just so you know, he's given me this kind of perspective is that we could sit here as leaders, as humans, as students, as whatever we want to be, and we can always point out what's wrong. Every one of you on this call can point out what's wrong with some component in your life. And you go, yeah, you know what? School sucks, or my parents are, pissing me off, whatever. I don't care. We can all point on one thing. One of my favorite quotes is, be kinder to those you meet because everybody you meet is fighting a battle. So everybody you walk by, everybody you talk to, deep down inside, we're all fighting something internal. Okay? And it's that mindset that gets us to overcome that. I know for me, I've got plenty of what we would call demons, right? That we're all dealing with. And then some of them are not as big as others. Some of you all have a lot to think about and a lot to really overcome. And what I want you all to get out of this, if anything, is that the problems are not going to go away. As a college student, and then as you go on through life, it doesn't go away, right? But the one thing that we do have the ability to do as humans and as students, as parents, as human beings, is we have the ability, we have choice, and we have the ability to actually choose how we react to things. And that's a skill. It really is, to really be able to consciously choose how you react and decide whether or not you want to be fixed mindset and nothing's ever going to work, or you're going to grow, or are you going to be a victim, or will you create? And sometimes the thing I love about victims versus creators is that creators create out of negative things, right? So even though it seems like a negative issue, somehow creators find a way to make it a positive, right? And that's a hard thing to do sometimes. It really, really is. So that is all I have for today. I wish my videos would have worked because they're cool, but they didn't. So do any of y'all have any questions? And I'll let you all about 14 minutes early.